are there some things that you all do to, how do you sort of handle that group and individual accountability, especially at such a young age? And what are some of the management things that you work with on your teachers?
So the first thing we did is we changed the word management to really just culture. And in order to foster a PBL culture, our teachers needed facilitative leadership training. And so I've embedded facilitative leadership training all the way through all of their training. And then we meet once a month as a team, so all of the 4-year-old teachers and I will meet, and we actually focus on what strategies they're using to support that cooperative learning environment in their classroom, because that's in preschool, their leverage point is building oral language development in their kids, and that doesn't happen unless they're talking to each other. And so our management, our culture has to be very tight, and just by proxy of my experience, that's always been at the forefront of all of our training, and starting with some facilitative leadership courses, Kagan strategy training, and how do I use that to build capacity around students talking to each other. And so we use a lot of tools, even with our 4 and 5-year-olds, even with some of our 3-year-olds, not our 2-year-olds, they're not quite there, but we use things like start, stop, and continue, more, less, and continue. What do you want me to do more of? What do you want me to do less of? What do you want me to continue doing? So we're building reflective pieces around management that our teachers can use to have kids manage each other. I would recommend that for K through 12. I recommend it for adults. And so we teach our students how to brainstorm. You know, part of that initial inquiry process is brainstorming. And so we give them strategies on how to facilitate that. So they'll use things like the open, narrow, close. So we're training our kids how to cooperatively collaborate together, and that changes the style of management in your classroom because they start to build a culture around that cooperation. But it's about us as school leaders and teachers being intentional on how you set the stage for management in your classroom. And so advice being, how do you weave all the way from day one and balance formative assessment not only for the individual but for the team? And I think that starts with making the team the priority on the first day.
And do you get any pushback, or how do you deal with that pushback of when it comes to scoring and grading and the sort of that elephant in the room, right? The balance between how much of, you know, I don't want my daughter to be dragged down by the others in the group, nor do I want my daughter to, if she's the high flyer, to you know, teach the others,
right.
Or if my daughter's the low flyer, to be left behind and not feel like they can participate, those kinds of things.
And so, you know, traditional strategies around just, you know, personality styles, building roles that are relevant to the project, and understanding that every student understands their job description. So, you know, we have in our kindergarten group, our teachers write our students' job descriptions first, and then they craft questions that they're going to pose to the students, and the students ultimately write their job description. Because what I have found over my years of doing it is if you don't understand your purpose within the project, you can never truly answer the question of the project because you were never sound at first with where you were. Mm-hmm. And so really spending time at the beginning to ensure that students understand their job description and role, and that every student has to be a researcher. They have to build that initial schema around the content of the project before they can move into working together, drawing conclusions, breaking apart assumptions as they make inferences around the research that they do. And so really giving everyone the opportunity to research, and then for management, so you let students go out and research, and then they come back and they use something like an I know, you know activity. And so by proxy of letting them do that individual work and coming back into a group. So they go out and do individual work, come back as a group, and then have a metacognitive wrapper that pulls their thinking together, has really changed the management dynamics. And so as a teacher, how do I facilitate that? within my classroom. And really, and from my days at being a teacher at KIPP schools, where we had to, craft daily agendas by the minute, I've really taken that into my PBL experience to ensure that students have that individual versus group versus metacognitive work as timed in agenda pieces within that time frame of the class period. And so teaching teachers how to manage their time teaches them how to facilitate where management doesn't become the biggest issue, because they're engaged and empowered by the content.